It's Mark Yegge here, wealth architect and lifestyle investor. Let's take your life to the next level. Welcome to the Wealth Architect Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Wealth Architect Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Yegge. I am so glad you're here. I'm actually glad to be back doing this. I've been in Greece for a couple of months and, I've kind of stacked all of my podcasts up, and now we have a really special guest today. She is the founder of Aspiring Entrepreneurs. She started, scaled, and sold 6- and 7-figure online businesses, which is what we're going to be talking about today. She started online with an Amazon business in 2013, and then she sold over $1 million in 2015. And she's launched 1,000 products. She's built educational programs, teaching thousands of students how to sell online. And she's now focusing her efforts on buying other online businesses and teaching others how to build a portfolio of income-generating assets. Let's welcome Sophie Howard. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Wonderful to be here.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So you're in New Zealand, right?
Yep.
And it's late there, or early there, depending on how you look at it, right?
It's the middle of the night. In fact, it's so middle of the night, my MacBook is really cross that I'm looking at a screen and it's gone onto some orange setting trying to protect me from myself.
Oh, got it. It's
and I can't undo it. I think I must have put some healthy work app on it once and I can't undo it.
So I'm looking kind of funny, huh?
Yeah, got some permatans going on.
So let's talk about this thing, because this is a really cool topic. I know a couple other people that have done this, but I haven't interviewed them yet on the podcast. So you're the first to be talking about online businesses. And we talk about, architecting your wealth and creating wealth, and passive income is a big way of doing that. And so is active income, frankly. But, you have a kind of a unique spin on the online side of the business, which of course is like what Wayne Gretzky says, skate to where the puck is going, not where the puck is. So you are where the puck is going. So let's talk about that. Tell us a bit about online businesses, how you got started, and what you're doing now. It's a big question.
Brilliant. Well, the joy of having cash flowing Amazon type businesses and doing other stuff online for the last few years meant that I was in a very nice position that when COVID hit and everyone was thinking, how do we do things differently? I swung around a bit from physical products to online only products. So I stopped sourcing new physical products for a bit and focused on ebooks. And that's been really good. And I've still got lots and lots of ebooks selling and still produce ebooks for Amazon on Kindle. And I teach that. So that side's going really well, but it doesn't take up that much time. So that bit's been pure online. And as I started that business, which was kind of new. I knew Amazon, but I'm not an author and I didn't know how to publish a book. But I figured out the nonfiction side really quickly and easily. That's sort of a bit of a process. But then I could see all these fiction people were making a fortune, like 100 times more than my best nonfiction book. And, they just had a different game in play. I was like, well, I don't know how to do that. I can't write these books myself, and don't know how you hire an author to write a fiction book. It's completely different to ghostwriting non-fiction books. So I bought a business. It was on Empire Flippers and it was quite a decent price tag. But what I could see was it came with a team of writers. It came with all these standard operating procedures. It came with a whole workflow all mapped out with a fully trained team on how they market each book when they launch it. All these relationships with other authors that they do swaps with. So I just plugged and played, and this thing generated a ton of cash. And I had to pay quite a bit up front, sort of 3 years future profit was the sort of the standard asking price. That's sort of typical in the industry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I just bought this ready-made business that I didn't have to figure out. Bliss. I was like, why did I not do this more often? And as an entrepreneur, I always enjoyed that thrill of starting it up from scratch and creating it, and all the trial and error, and the highs of winning are so high. But gosh, there's some low, expensive and time-wasting bits on the way there.
Well, this is the definition of the who, not how, right? That Dan Sullivan talks about. You find out who's doing it, and instead of writing the book yourself, you have a team that's doing it. That's fascinating. Wait, so you don't even have to write the books yourself. You got somebody else doing it.
Yeah, well, for that business, what was already in play was a whole content plan for the next 2 years of what this next series of books would be, stories about which characters came and went. Somebody had mapped all that out. The writing team was hired on Upwork, so I just inherited their contracts. It was so easy. So there was a couple of weeks handover. I plugged their account into my Kindle account, job done. So I was like, right, well, that's cool. So then I went and bought a newsletter for authors, because I was like, well, this newsletter promotion thing seems to be quite key for these books. So I'd like to have a bigger database. So there was one for sale, so I bought that. And then that generates 90K profit a year. And I do no work at all. Absolutely, like literally nothing. I check the income once a week.
No.
And that came with an operator. So I've only looked to buy fully managed businesses. I don't want to be the operator or buying a job. And they don't, sort of my criteria might be different from other people thinking about doing this. So the first one was just for learning. It wasn't even for the cash flow side, but that was a big bonus. The second one was a database that plugged into other businesses I had. So that was really strategic. And it's really low maintenance. And I've acquired really good people through the businesses I've bought as well. So I'm up to like 20 something businesses I've bought now. Some have been really tiny little websites, and others were full teams, full machinery of a whole trading entity. So I usually don't buy the company. I'll sort of do an asset purchase of bits of it I want. So I don't want to buy somebody's business that's got leases on offices in New York and things like that. So just like the bits I need and want, and then whip that over to New Zealand online, run it from here. So I've got a really small team. I've tried to stay with certain business models that suit me. So I'm not techie at all. So I don't want to be running teams of developers, or I'm also not very good at social media. So I don't do anything that requires any social media posting, because that's just painful to me. And then, well, it's just a bit hard to keep up. And it's, I wouldn't do it myself. And then you can pay someone to do it, but you just don't know how good they are at it, and just rather find a business model that doesn't require it. And then I've got a few things I really like to look for, but I definitely don't like any paid ads. So keep away from paid Facebook or Google ads. I do have some digital products where there's kind of an ebook, like a digital copy of something goes out once a month, and then there's a little video explainer goes up on YouTube. But generally, there's a pretty sort of simple production cycle or maintenance mode for all of the businesses. And then they all stitch together to generate a very nice, healthy monthly income, with me having quite good fun both looking for the deals. Certainly a lot more deals out there than, but, there's not many serious buyers in this space. So if you see a good deal, I've got every single one, and I've got pretty huge price reductions on all of the deals I've closed, and good payment terms. So if you're listening to this and go, oh, I'm not very techie and you must need loads of cash up front. Well, I'm definitely not techie at all. I actually could even fill out a PDF form and attach it to something 3 times yesterday. And the other thing for the buying a business bit, most vendors and the brokers working with the vendors are really happy to do vendor finance. So they would maybe need a percentage up front, but maybe over a year or two, you pay off the balance from the earnings of the business. So that de-risks it for you and helps your cash flow, but also helps sort of sort out the honesty a bit of the other side. If they don't sign up to that, they obviously don't back their business to keep trading after you've bought it. So it sort of works for everyone. And the brokers are quite happy with it, because they just get their commission out of the first chunk of change that moves across. So they're done. And they just want to see the deal done. So I've been able to get, the last business I bought, the asking price was 190K, and I got it for 135. And with a payment plan for that, 135. So that's really good. And it's making 80K profit a year. Wow. So that's pretty good. It pays itself back in a year or two, rather than 3 or 4, which is where the asking price looks, sort of multiples, usually about 3 years of your last 12 months profit is what they usually
I'm listening to you, and the story is fascinating to me, actually. And the way you kind of lay it out is so humble and matter of fact, right? Like, you make it seem so easy. Are there some stories, or is there like a bad experience where it, like, you went belly up and it just wasn't the right thing, or the team wasn't what they thought, or like your due diligence wasn't enough? Something? Is there? Have you made some mistakes that maybe we can avoid if we're doing the same thing?
I do really careful due diligence. So touch wood. I have not had any shockers. Nothing's lost money.
Great. Good for you.
Long may that last. I've had some sort of nervy nights when I've just beamed a whole ton of cash to the other side of the world to someone I've never met for a business I'll never see.
Right.
Waiting for it to appear in my inbox the next morning with the password. The brokers are good. Those big marketplaces, Empire Flippers and Flipper, there's like escrow and stuff to protect you. So I'm just sort of joking really, but it is quite a big decision each one you choose. And I could look at 100 and only see 5 or 10 that I'd shortlist. and maybe one of those I buy. So I've got really good at quickly filtering the definite no's. And there's a few sort of red flags or alarm bells go off when I see certain things. So I like the business to be at least a year, more than a year old. Ideally, the older the better for something that's ranked on Google. You want some nice long and clean history, no dodgy link building or anything like that. So you can pay for reports off most of the brokers who'll just, without any sort of judgment, just churn out a really cold, hard analytical report of here's the data on Google Analytics on keywords that it was ranked for, that kind of thing. So you don't need to be very techy to do some of the due diligence, but you definitely need some soft skills around checking the vendor's motivation. And there's things like they say, oh, the team knows that we're selling the business and they're happy to stay on. I say, well, great, can we have a call with that team, as part of the whole thing? Because
that's a big question.
Questions. Yeah. And so there's a few hard things to check out, like, do they actually own the website they're selling? I've got a great big long list of things I go through. And then I think the way you could get really unstuck is if it's all like one product or one platform or one keyword, just like in any business, you don't want to be exposed with one of anything. So what I really like is a business that's got recurring revenue. That's always my favorite. So the last business I bought was a kind of a simple content site teaching people to play guitar. Mm-hmm. And it's just a whole bunch of articles teaching people how to play guitar. But some of those articles review guitars or review amps or the gear musicians need. And if those readers order that product through the links in my website, then I earn some commission. And that's a few $1,000s, sometimes a week, certainly a few $1,000s a month. And that's really passive. I don't do anything for that. Those articles that were written years ago by the previous owner still earn me money. And then I pay a writer just to do a post a week, which I have no idea about guitars. So, I can check that it's proper spelling, but that's about it. So that gets uploaded once a week. And then because I know about ebooks, I produced an ebook on Amazon about guitars, and then that feeds across to that website. And then on the website, I can give away a free ebook, it all kind of cross-pollinates a bit. So it helps my Amazon sales. The book gives the website credibility. And then the book became an audiobook. So you can kind of keep growing the ones you buy to kind of shorten that payback period back to break even, down to a year or less, which is what I try to do. But even if I hadn't touched that one at all, it would have covered itself really quickly, really low maintenance, no subject matter knowledge, just it's a site built on WordPress with good quality content. Mm-hmm. And it's been around for years. And the affiliate products sell really well. They're popular in their quality items. And they're not on Amazon. That's really important. So despite being Amazon's biggest fangirl when it comes to selling physical products and ebooks, because that's where the customers are, on the affiliate product side, their commissions are really mean, and they've actually just dropped them again in the last week or so. So there'll be some people really hurting who are only selling or only recommending Amazon listed products. So if I buy a business and it's just got Amazon links as the affiliate products, I'll switch them out to a better product on a more generous commission structure. So that's been easy. But I've only got 2 part-timers in my team. I've got wonderful Tess, who looks after all the WordPress stuff. So we outsource all the writing to an agency. Tess and I, between us, do kind of the keyword research, double check the content plan, and then leave the writers to it. And then the writers upload it and find the images, that kind of thing. Wow. So we're definitely quite WordPress site heavy at the moment. Yeah. But we've got some really good newsletter businesses. We've got a good subscription digital business. It's like a monthly design pack. It's only $10 a month, but there's 600 people paying for that every single month. And I only need to pay one designer to do one pack once a month on Upwork.
Yes.
So that's a good business model. I've got really low overheads with it because we don't have to do too much. I mean, I'm not writing anything. We're not creating anything new in-house. We've got a few contracts with a few agencies, but we keep it quite simple.
Hey, it's Mark Yegge, author of this book on covered calls, here to tell you about my cash flow machine trading program that's designed to show you how I make safe, reliable income. Now, I shoot for 2 to 4% a month of income in my portfolio, and we have courses to teach you how to do this yourself or inside a mastermind community. And the best part of it is that it only takes me about 20 minutes a week, maybe to an hour to implement. Now, while 2 to 4% a month may not sound like much, I show you exactly how I took my IRA from $111,000 to over $700,000 in just 23 months without huge risk. Yes, I got a little lucky, I gotta say, but I'm not telling you this to brag, just to show you that you could do this too. So to learn more about this program, go to cashflowmachine.io, or better yet, go to this link to get access to videos and masterclasses that explain the entire process, the risks, and rewards even more. See you there. So even on that guitar, you don't like review new guitars or anything like that? You're not creating any new kind of content in that department?
No, well, when we reviewed that site when we bought it, there were a few things we liked. It's not seasonal; it's a growing trend. Yeah. It's quality writing. The articles already up there are really in depth and they are quite commercial. So actually, what we thought the best thing for the long-term health of that site for the Google algorithm was to actually skew it back to be more information type articles. And there's plenty of guitar review articles already up there, or drum kits or whatever else. So it's been really good just looking at a long-term view and getting the input of the agency with the writing team, because they're far more up to date with the latest things from Google. So one thing was that we didn't have that EAT thing, which is this sort of expertise and authority on the subject that Google's looking for now to prove that the content wasn't written by some AI ChatGPT tool or something. Right. So one thing the agency suggested was we should beef up the profile of, why the site has real expertise and depth and authority to teach people about guitar. So I've got this guy on Upwork who is the guitar expert who manages the writing. So we've just sort of profile him more. And then that keeps the Google algorithm happy that this isn't just junk written by some robot. So we're not really using AI, but when I'm buying a business, a big filter is to check it's AI proof in the future. Shan't be buying any translation businesses this week or transcription or help desk service agencies, anything like that's just going to be really struggling. Yeah. So just sort of quality products or services that have a bit of that X factor, something that's hard to copy. It's got like a moat around it. It needn't be a patent or a trademark, but just something that would be hard to replicate. So you can't quickly replicate your Google ranking. You can't quickly replicate a database of 30,000 really engaged people on an email database. Right. So access to channels, access to paying customers, all that sort of thing is a real shortcut to that endpoint of having a profitable business that's finished and built. And then you can optimize a few things if you want. But the nice thing is you just fast forward straight to that point that all of us entrepreneurs dream of, which is in the future, I will have a business that gives me lifestyle and financial freedom, and the team will be trained and the systems will be documented and processes and flow charts and everything will be sitting neat and tidy and working smoothly. But anyone who's selling a business has to do all that to put it on the market. Sure. So you're straight to the whoosh, in the game of snakes and ladders, it's a big ladder right to the end, done. Just enjoy it. Sit back.
Just really fascinating. And I love the way you bring it out. Now, I have two questions. So the first question is, so it's not really completely passive income. You got a team of a couple part-timers, and actually you're looking for business on an active basis. So there's more to it than just sitting back and opening your mailbox every day and going to the bank, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a bit more work, right?
Yeah, and I could get more involved in some of the content sites. I could add education pieces on the back end rather than refer to somebody else's course on Udemy or Masterclass. I could commission somebody to produce that course and own it fully and just sell it straight off my own sales page rather than an affiliate link. So there's, with anything you can kind of work harder and get more reward. But I kind of keep quite a light touch on quite a few businesses and try not to get into the weeds of all the operations, and just if I can't manage it with my team, I don't take it on. Yeah. So I never want to buy a doer-upper. Don't want somebody's brilliant code they've written for this amazing business that's going to change the planet. All we need is, 3 funding rounds and a strong launch. I just don't want new businesses. I want proven slam dunks.
Right. Makes sense. And the second question I have is, what if you don't have the money to buy one of these businesses? Are there people out there that are willing to finance you and give you some third-party money?
Well, this is a very interesting question. So since I've been doing this, lots of people have asked me to go out and sort of scout for deals for them. And then they've asked me to operate it. And then I was just like, oh, no, I can't do that. No. Nice. The first bit sounded quite fun and flattering, and then the rest sounded really quite stressful. So having been on that side of it, I know there are people who are, high net worth individuals casting around looking for better returns on interesting opportunities. And it's certainly interesting and it's certainly high return. But there's obviously, with an online business, less security for somebody putting cash into a business for sale. So banks tend not to like these very much.
Of course.
Any broker that has got a listing where it's eligible for SBA funding will have put that loud and clear on the listing, which helps a lot of people who are in the States. And that can be quite big. And there's another really cool company called Boopos, which is a strange name, Boopos. And they partially finance these deals with some skin in the game. They behave like a sort of, not quite an angel investor because the thing's already proven, but they just help with the financing and then charge their fees and interest on that deal structure. But it can help people get started, and they're really good. They vet the deals, so take the risk out, and everybody should be pretty well aligned on that. And they don't meddle with the operations, but they've got some good experts around.
Nice.
So they're really good. And then the best way I've found is actually just vendor finance and start small, because even if you've got stacks of cash, you don't want to go and buy $1 million online business if you don't know what you're doing. You could really, really stuff things up. You might want to get, one technical person in your team and make sure they're competent, and, start smaller and build up rather than launching at the deep end. So the whole sort of migration process of buying an online business, you want to get that right, and you want to have all that, just the basics, like where are you going to host the website that's secure, and what are your daily, weekly, monthly workflows. You might as well learn that with a small business, not something, even if you can afford to lose it and you've got so much money, it doesn't matter. It's just not good practice to shrink something. Much better to buy something small and grow it, even if you pay for lots of, help, get some coaching, or pay somebody really competent who's just set and forget and overqualified for the job just to run your operations until you've filled that pipeline with more deals. So I don't think you'd ever want just one of these sorts of businesses. It's definitely a portfolio game.
Yeah.
Just like any kind of picking a stock, basically. So each one's a single income generating asset. And what I like to do is keep them related, like similar niches or industries, similar business models, and the tech pretty similar. So if I've got one business that's a WordPress content site, I don't want to suddenly be doing videos on TikTok for consumer when I'm mostly business to business and on WordPress or something.
Yeah.
So it's been good keeping it quite simple, and then you can do quite a few deals. And there's more deals out there than I can possibly do. There's so many good deals. I've got this watch list. Every morning I hit refresh to see if there's messages back from vendors and answering my questions. I've been firing them and then trying to juggle time zones to do calls with them. So it's really fun. It's a real thrill because there's some great opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And some vendors need to sell, sadly for them. People get themselves in a pickle in some other area of life, or there's, a founder fallout or a divorce, or somebody just wants to retire, burn out some health thing. Those distressed asset sales are pretty good buying if you nice and professional to deal with, and you've got cash or can move quickly. It's not even about the cash up front. It's sort of just being decisive, asking the right questions, and just moving through with the deal. I think there's a lot of time wasters.
Yeah, I'm sure. And when you first started, I'm like, okay, she's already gone through all the deals. There's not that many, or there's nothing left for the rest of us. Right. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is really good stuff. I'm sure there's a ton of websites, businesses, online things, and like you said, distressed sales and opportunities that are out there, just like anything else. So that is just amazing that you've stumbled upon. Well, I don't know if you stumbled upon it, but you probably worked so hard you got lucky, right? You worked for 10 years, and all of a sudden you were an overnight success. But good on you. Congratulations. That sounds like something that I'm definitely interested in. I'm sure there's going to be some listeners that are going to be like, I want to jump in on this. So let's jump to this. How do we learn about how to do this stuff?
Well, firstly, it's not for, I can tell you about this. It's not for everyone, is the first thing I have to say. So it's a game where you obviously need to understand the strategy of how it works, what kind of deals are listed, where they're listed, what to look for in a good deal. There's some individual settings on those criteria of what you're going to go out and look to buy.
Yeah.
So some people will be more techy than others or have more risk profile, high risk profile or budget, that all is going to be very, very individual. So first thing is to spend some time being sort of self-aware as well about your strengths, not just the resources you have and your interests. I can't think of anything worse than, doing some TikTok channel or having to just post non-stop all the time. Like I just want a very passive, quiet life,
Yes,
but a quality product I'm proud of. So I've got kind of my criteria nailed down pretty tightly now. I don't buy something if I'm not interested in the product. After that guitar one, where I don't really know much about guitars, and then I've been looking at other ones since that I am really passionate about, it makes it so much easier to work on something you've got some level of interest or understanding in.
Yeah.
So firstly, just understanding how the game works and some time on your own criteria. And then what we would do then is take you through some deal reviews. So look at some real deals together and shortlist them and go through that deal assessment, the red flags, the pros, the cons, the questions to ask the vendor, get some good answers back, and maybe renegotiate some things, go through a full detailed due diligence, which the bigger the deal, the more in-depth it is. There's third-party external people who can do that due diligence for you, whether it's a service where you just get a written report, or there's actually a whole industry out there, like there's agencies that just specialize in due diligence for online businesses. So there's plenty of help for all these steps. And then move through to this point of offer and acceptance is a bit of legal stuff, which is all kind of templated. There's some best practice. A thing I think I teach better than most is the negotiations and getting inside the head of the vendor and trying to get really good terms. So it's all very well to grovel or beat them up for a better price, but actually kind of that psychology of what they're trying to do with their exit and what their goals in life are and what we're trying to do with business. And often they're quite attached emotionally to a business they've started from scratch.
Sure.
And maybe they just want a lump sum of cash and to run for the hills, but maybe they really care about who it goes to. I mean, this won't happen for a $5,000 WordPress site, but when the businesses get a bit bigger and someone's been running it for years, they're not quite as cold and hard-nosed as you'd think when it comes to selling, and they want the deal to be done. They're sick of the time wasters, and it's so much work selling a business. I've sold 2 businesses. One was 7 figures, one was 6 figures. There were so many things to do, and the brokers needs all this and that, and there's time waster calls, and you want to be done, and you want sort of a future plan of where you're heading next. So I really enjoyed that negotiation and the kind of structuring a deal. It's not a tricky financial structure. It's sort of timing of payments, amount of payments, but also what's included. What are the terms? Does that key staff member come over? Can we defer that payment until this business result you say is going to happens? Can we, have you advised for the next, few months on an hourly basis, this many hours on a retainer or not page or whatever, but just getting the business the very best chance of success is far better than getting a bit of price down, but then, no goodwill, because those owners know a lot about what's been going on and would have tried all sorts of things to get to where they are.
And you may need them after you buy the business, right? Like you don't want to just be such a win-lose negotiator that they just walk away and go, okay, great, you're on your own. You might need them, right? And I'm sure you have ways of structuring it. So is this like a coaching program, a mentorship program? Do you have a course that people can learn this? How do you do this?
Yeah, it's a small group program, and some of it's online. Follow an online course to learn the key components of it. But then on top of that, we do a live group call every week. And so I lead those. Sometimes I bring in a guest speaker, somebody who's a broker or somebody who's just done a really big deal and wants to share what they learned on that big deal, or someone who's got a successful portfolio, find out what they look for and what works for them. So bring in lots of people to chat to the students who are learning how to do this. And then I get involved on reviewing deals. So when my students are out there, they've got a short list and they want some help whittling it down, or they've got a deal and they've done their version of the due diligence, I can come through and do a deal review one-on-one with them as well to give them some more questions to ask or some points for negotiation, or double check this or that looks wrong, or run a mile, this is bad. These things are not as they appear. So, it's just my input from having done some deals, and, the more data points and experience you can get across these deals before you sign on the dotted line, the better. And then in that community, we've got tons of things like templates for letters of intent and all the legal documents. We've got ways of working with different brokers, all sorts of checklists, questions, a script for when you call up the vendor, how to introduce yourself and how to kick off with some sensible questions, just to sort of break it down step by step, every part where you need to be thinking or making decisions, and just helping people practice getting to know really fast if it's not the deal for you, because you don't want to waste weeks pouring through financials or paying your accountant to review something that you never end up going ahead with. So killing off the bad ones really fast, keeping enough interesting ones in play, because a few of those always fall over or somebody buys them. Actually, nobody's ever bought one I was looking at.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe they knew something I didn't that I haven't discovered yet. But I move pretty fast when I see one I like, and I make a pretty kind of, I don't beat them up too much on price. I'd much rather get a really quality business. There's Warren Buffett saying, get a great business at a fair price than a fair business at a great price. I don't want somebody else's disaster zone and try and patch it up. I just want clean, successful, trending upwards, recurring revenue, low maintenance, built on solid platforms where I've got really good data. So I never actually buy Amazon businesses because you can't really see much of the data. You don't know if somebody's pumped $1 million into Facebook ads behind that 10K profit. You can see the Amazon reports. It's all kind of decoupled where the marketing's happened, and you don't have a customer database, and find that one a bit tricky because I've been on the inside of those Amazon businesses and I've seen kind of, especially with products more than ebooks, but the products game is pretty gnarly, and there's some big aggregators sweeping through, picking up, I can't remember how much Thrasio raised. It was in the billions. It was a ridiculous amount of money to roll up Amazon FBA businesses. So I think a lot of those good ones have been snapped up, and you never just kind of have gone off that sort of sourced from China, store them in a warehouse in the States, pay Amazon lots of fees until they sell. The cash flow is a bit back to front of them. So I try and find businesses where the cash flow is the right way around. Rather than pay for product up front. So I prefer digital over physical products now, just for this type of business. I'm still very happy to start a physical products business because I sort of built the supply chain myself. But I tend to buy things like newsletters or subscription services that are online. They've been probably the best business model. And then the content sites are very passive and very steady, which is really nice too. A little portfolio of those is very helpful. So anybody who wants to learn this, I can take you through with some very structured training, starting at the very beginning, assuming you aren't techie and haven't done this before, and not probably going to pay tons of cash up front for a big business, but starting small, learning the ropes, get your hands on with a smaller deal, join a community where lots of other people are doing this, and we're all looking for, different industries. We've never actually had anyone bump into anybody else's deal yet, which is quite remarkable. And then what we do is guide you through the steps, lots of contact time, a one-on-one deal review, and then lots of training on sort of how to run the operations once you've bought these businesses, how to roll them up into a neat little portfolio, and where to get good help from. This is the agency we use for copywriting. This is where we do our hosting. This is the briefs we give our writers based on the latest Google best practice or whatever it might be. So whatever the kind of the business model, will be able to set you off on the right tracks to operate it really well, and lots of ideas also to grow it and shorten that payback period.
All important things, especially when you're buying a business that's somebody else's. So where do we send people to find out more about your services and what you're offering here?
Brilliant. Well, the program is called Freedom Navigator, and we could probably just arrange to drop a link to that in the show notes. The website to find that is aspiringentrepreneurs.com. And on there, you'll see under courses, Freedom Navigator. So it's a weekly call that's on Fridays, my time in New Zealand. So probably late Thursday, if you're in the States, or quite late Thursday night in the UK, or Europe. So lots of contact time, lots of help. Really want to see people find good deals. We've got a big confidentiality sort of mutual agreement so that we can talk about deals and secrecy and confidence that nobody's going to pinch your deal or leak it. So the more deals you see, the better you'll get at picking a winner for yourself. That's just it's like going to buy real estate. You've got to first decide which country you want to buy in, and then do you want to cottage in the country and a cabin in the woods, or do you want an apartment condo to lease out, or do you want an Airbnb? I mean, you have to pick the right type of asset to buy. And then you have to look at a whole bunch of different suburbs, different price ranges, and learn all the tricks in the book. So there's always more to learn. And I really like teaching this because I'm still actively buying businesses as well. And so, teaching what I'm doing, people get to watch deals over my shoulder. The session I did live last week was a rundown of a deal I'm mid-negotiations on. So shared what my negotiating strategy was and how I'm playing it with this other side.
I think it's so important. Yeah. And I think it's so important to get in group coaching situations because you get to learn from each other. You get to learn from somebody like you that's been there and you've done, what'd you say, 23 businesses and something like that. And, you know what to look for, right? But somebody tries to figure out what you're doing and recreate it, it's going to take them a long time. So I just totally believe in what you do. I love the niche that you've created. I love the information that you've shared. I think it's really helpful and really neat. And just the way you presented it was absolutely fantastic. So thanks for your time and wisdom and being on the Wealth Architect podcast. And we'll send people to those links from our show notes. Any final thoughts?
No, just to say thank you very, very much. And you do a wonderful job for your listeners. And it's great. I mean, this podcasting format is so, the amount you can learn just by listening to podcasts, between that and books, I mean, it's just phenomenal what's out there and the ideas you can get exposed to and just totally life-changing opportunities just in your ears every day. So it's brilliant. So thank you for running such a good show.
Thank you so much. I'm having an issue with some dogs. These aren't even my dogs, so I don't know what to do. But thanks for your patience on that. And everybody else, thanks for listening and watching. And I always say at the end of my podcast, never give up your power in your health, your wealth, or your time. Have a great day, everybody. See you next time on the Wealth Architect Podcast.
You've been listening to the Wealth Architect Podcast with Mark Yegge. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Share and tell your friends. See you soon.